And suddenly, to my surprise, he did the mash. He did the monster mash. The monster mash. Be-doo-doo, 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 be-doo-doo. 1, 2, Barnabas is coming for you. 3, 4, I'm already at your door. Wait. 3, 4, better lock your door. There it is. 5, 6, Scooby-Dooby, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Scooby-Dooby, Scooby-Dooby-Doo. If there's something weird and it don't look good, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! I ain't afraid of no ghosts. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Ah, what a nice, relaxing shower. Have you been here this whole time? What are you doing? Get out! Hello, my dear Franken friends, and welcome to Spookyou, your one-stop shop for all things ghastly and ghoulish. I'm your host, Barnabas Vixen, and honestly, I kind of wish they'd told me I'd be cutting an intro instead of letting me believe this was my day off! Close your Barnabas. Together. Anyways, I'm sure you're here for a story. So let me pass things on over to our vivacious voiceover virtuoso, Trey Falco, while I finish relaxing. Oh yeah, curated by our Weavers of Woe, scary and terrifying story, blah 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 blah. You know how it goes. Now get out of here before I lose my temper. The woman with the blue eyes gracefully waltzed towards me, caressing the slinky she cradled in front of her. At first, I was overjoyed to see her. I could feel butterflies rioting in my stomach, and despite never actually speaking with her, I wanted to leap towards her and confess my never-ending love and adoration. And then the moment was ruined. I refocused upon the paralyzed mob of deranged Orange Julius employees that encircled me. There were dozens of them, mouths agape and staring at me with hungry eyes. It was like being surrounded by a smothering forest of sinister, uniformed mannequins. "The apprentice has arrived!" she cheered and threw up her arms in the air. No longer immobilized, everyone else followed suit and filled the room with a deafening roar. "Apprentice?" I said, cowering before the crowd. "What the hell are you talking about?" I heard a loud grinding noise from below my feet, and suddenly, tables and chairs burst from the floor. They looked like furniture from a retro diner, and everyone, except for myself and the blue-eyed woman, found a table and sat down. "Please, just tell me what's going on," I pleaded. She took a step back, and at once I felt the familiar paralysis take over my body. I lost control and stood rigid in place. Then my heart stopped when I felt something alien and undesirable assume control of my motor functions. I found myself being manipulated like a marionette. My arms and legs moved according to outside direction, and I was powerless to do anything but watch. I couldn't even mumble a protest as I was puppeted away from the crowd and directed towards some sort of kitchen. While the outside of the building was old and decayed, the kitchen looked pristine, like it was brand new back in the 1950s. I moved to the counter where I found an industrial-sized blender and a small mountain of oranges. I then proceeded to make cup after cup of Orange Julius's trademark drink. I blended together orange juice, milk, and vanilla until each was reasonably frothy. Then, without my input, my body compelled me to grab a handful of ingredients from a cupboard marked condiments. I glanced inside and found a shocking amount of gore, gallons of viscera, dozens of severed eyeballs, teeth, hair, fingernails, and an assortment of other body parts at various stages of decomposition. I wanted to retch, but I couldn't. Instead, compelled by my invisible puppet master, I stuck my arm into this mess, grabbed a handful of guts, and added the gruesome ingredients to the blender, creating a vile, orangey red slurry. I poured this vile mixture into paper mugs that looked old and bore the picture of a red cartoon devil. I delivered platters of these revolting drinks to smiling throng outside. I placed the overflowing cups in front of them, and I cringed as they chugged down that horrid concoction. Oh, it oozed down their cheeks and splashed onto the table in front of them. They were all enraptured and drank it up like it was the greatest drug on earth. For hours, I poured repugnant batch after repugnant batch. And even though I could feel my body go past the point of exhaustion, the force that animated me did not slow down in the slightest. Instead, I kept filling cups until the last patron was satiated. Once my task was complete, the woman with the blue eyes appeared in front of me. I found myself in command of my own actions and collapsed to the ground from exhaustion. "Congratulations," she said. "You have the job, starting tomorrow. The pay is $50 a visit. Remember, all staff meetings are mandatory. You will receive your uniform and instructions shortly." "What?" I mumbled, still disoriented from my day's labors. The lights flickered 3 times, and in an instant she had vanished. I left the kitchen and found that the mob of uniformed drinkers had vanished as well. Now, with the lights on, I could see the exit on the far side of the building. With what little energy I had left, I rushed for the door. It was late evening by the time I finally made my way outside. I shut the door behind me, and then I fled from that row of abandoned buildings, not daring to look back. I rushed home and had a long, hot shower, hoping to scrub the feel of human remains from my hands. I fell into a coma that lasted well into the afternoon the next day. I woke to a package in the mail. It contained a letter and an Orange Julius uniform. Inside the letter was a brief message and a 7-point list. "Congratulations! Welcome to the Orange Julius workforce. Do not deviate from the 7 steps. Number 1, wear the uniform. Brand recognition is key. Number 2, follow the slinky. It knows who is next. Number 3, flicker the lights 3 times. Announce a new beginning. Number 4, smile. Build rapport. Number 5, stare. The longer the better. Number 6, kiss them on the forehead. Affection builds bonds. Number 7, tuck them in. Complete the circle." At the bottom of the letter, etched in red ink, was a stern warning. "Attention! A. Failure to comply will result in termination. B. Staff meeting attendance is mandatory." I read the list a dozen times, seeing them numbered and presented like a recipe or a ritual. Made me understand that all my visitors were observing some kind of regulated structure. What the list lacked was any indication as to why any of this was necessary. Then there was the uniform. It reeked of oranges, and it was exactly my size. It wasn't the same uniform as worn by the employees of the mall Orange Julius Dairy Queen. Instead, it was the retro throwback worn by all my nighttime visitors. The implications of the list and uniform left me anxious. Was I expected to become a visitor? I had no desire to torment some innocent soul. The idea of creeping into someone's room and kissing a stranger on the forehead before tucking them in made my skin crawl. And I couldn't forget that warning. If I failed to comply, I'd risk termination. I assumed this meant much more than my employment status. The next day, another package arrived. I tore off the packing tape, and inside was a slinky. I had memorized the instructions, and I knew what I had to do. I put on the foul-smelling uniform and placed the slinky on my stairs. Then I followed that animated coil to my destination. The slinky led me to a 2-story house. It arched its way up to the front door. It banged itself up against the wood in a futile attempt to go inside. I turned the door handle, opened it up, and the slinky entered. It crawled its way up the stairs, and I followed. Soon, we were in front of a partially open bedroom door. There, the slinky stopped. I recalled the list. I flicked the lights off and on 3 times and then tried to present the biggest smile I could muster. Then I swung the bedroom door open. I walked inside and found a man lying in bed. I could tell by his frozen expression that his entire body was paralyzed. No part of him moved except for his eyes, which darted around frantically. Poor schmuck, I thought to myself. I knew exactly how he felt. Powerless, afraid, vulnerable. I was in his position dozens of times. Now, the tormented had become the tormentor. I stood over him and met his gaze. I stared at him for over 3 hours. Then I kissed him on the forehead, tucked him into bed, and left. I ran down the stairs, opened the front door, and rushed home. I surged with adrenaline and felt sick over what I had become. The next day, I found $50 deposited in my bank account, and another slinky arrived in the mail. Then, the whole ritual repeated itself. I put on the uniform and followed the slinky to an apartment complex about 45 minutes away. I approached the bedroom and flicked the lights 3 times. I entered and found an elderly woman frozen in bed. I stared at her, kissed her on the forehead, and tucked her in. Then I raced home. From then on, I received a slinky in the mail every day. Always the same pattern. There's never any opposition. The doors are always unlocked. The frozen individual always lives alone, and I'm able to leave without issue. And every day I find $50 freshly deposited in my bank. After being unemployed for so long, a regular paycheck was actually quite nice. After visiting a dozen people, I was starting to feel run down. I was eating properly, and my sleep greatly improved since strangers stopped dropping by to tuck me in. And yet, I felt drained and constantly sluggish. Every step felt like I was walking through wet beach sand. My body felt wrong, almost like various body parts had become desynchronized. Then, expecting my daily slinky, I instead found something else. A note that read, "Staff meeting, 9 p.m. at the old OG." No matter how strange the situation, if you immerse yourself in abnormal acts every day for a week, it will become your normal. I did not enjoy tucking strangers into bed every night, but after a few days, as absurd as it sounds, I was getting used to it. It was now my normal. But this invitation to a staff meeting, a new development, it was a fresh hell I did not wish to endure. I just hoped it was a spelling mistake.
Pardon my ill-timed interruption of this terrible tale, but I've been informed by the powers that be that our narrator has been sucked into a wormhole. While our Neutronian technicians work on fishing him out, quite literally bait and all, I'd like to take a moment to tell you about one of our sponsors, Katarina's Potion Emporium. Whether you're brewing up a powerful love potion to ensnare that special someone, or a potent drought of imminent death, you'll find all the ingredients your shriveled up little heart desires. Don't fancy yourself an apothecary? No worries! Katarina has lined the shelves with her very own concoctions, at affordable rates. And right now, if you scream Spookyou into the cold night air around midnight, you'll receive Katarina's deepest thanks with your first purchase. Hurry now, this deal won't last long. Now I've been told that our narrator is back behind the mic and, mostly, no worse for wear, we return you to your story already in progress.
That night I pulled on my foul-smelling uniform and returned to the abandoned Orange Julius. As I neared the building, I observed a group of people entering the front door. I approached the entrance and braced myself for the gale-force winds, but nothing happened. This time, the indoor hurricane was turned off. The door creaked open and I stepped inside. Inside, I found dozens of people, all of them wearing the same uniform as myself. Most of them I recognized. All of them had tucked me into bed at one point. The last time I saw them was when I served those vile orange smoothies. I walked among the crowd and did my best to pretend I knew what was going on. Then I spotted 2 unforgettable figures talking to each other. The man with pianist fingers and the woman with the nose ring. I was overwhelmed with apprehension, but I needed answers. I cautiously approached them. "Hey guys," I said, and they both turned to face me. Pianist fingers spoke first. "Ah, fresh blood." "So, I'm new here," I said, attempting to sound brave. "Who the hell are you people and what the fuck is going on?" The man chuckled. "Well, I can answer your first question. My name is Frank and I am, or rather was, a pediatric surgeon. This here is Dolores," he said as he motioned toward the woman with the nose ring. "She used to be a children's librarian. Now we tuck strangers into bed every night for $50 a pop." I didn't expect an answer as mundane as this. In my mind's eye, these two were soulless phantasms, entities that existed with no purpose other than beguiling and terrifying the innocent. Instead, they turned out to be non-paranormal and entirely boring. "How long have you been doing this for?" I asked. Dolores spoke up. "For me, about a year. For Frank, a bit less. I remember tucking him in before his apprenticeship." "All right. Why are we here?" I continued. "Is this really a staff meeting?" "In a way, it is a staff meeting. You see, the pun is intentional," Frank said. "Have you felt drained and run down lately?" "Yes," I replied. I get enough sleep and I eat right, but I always feel like crap." "Well, if you guzzle one of the orange drinks that you'll soon see everyone drinking, you'll feel a whole lot better." "Orange drinks? Oh, you mean like the ones that I made in the kitchen? The ones with..." My stomach lurched when I remembered the cupboard lined with gore and various body parts. "Yep, those are the ones," Dolores said knowingly, "complete with the special ingredients." No, I stammered. "There's no way I could possibly drink that. There's human remains in there." "Trust us," Frank said. "It's better you don't think about it and drink up. You'll feel a whole lot better after your first sip." "You don't want her to see you hesitate either," Dolores said, nodding towards the woman with the blue eyes. I could see her on the periphery of the crowd, attending to matters that I could not understand. "Yeah? Well, what about her?" I said. "You love her, don't you?" Frank said. What do you mean?" "How could he possibly know?" I thought to myself. "We all love her," Frank said, a sappy smile crossing his face. "None of us have had an actual conversation with her, but that doesn't matter." This can't be, I thought to myself. What I felt was genuine, not like these phonies. "Wait, so you all feel this way?" "Every single one of us," Dolores said. "From the first time we laid eyes on her. Look, here she is now." The blue-eyed woman stood in the middle of the crowd and raised her arms. "Attention, everyone! Places, please!" she shouted. Everyone stopped mingling and formed a circle, and like an obedient pet, I joined in. Once we were in position, the lights were turned off. I heard a loud whoosh, and suddenly I was buffeted on all sides by an intense breeze. I stood in place, windswept and blind, for a good 10 minutes. Then, like clockwork, the lights blinked 3 times before illuminating the cavernous room once more. In the middle of the circle was a bewildered-looking man. I recognized him as one of the first people I tucked in. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded. He walked around his confines like a caged animal. I watched as he made a futile attempt to break free from our encirclement. The blue-eyed woman approached the man. "The apprentice has arrived!" she cheered and threw her arms up in the air. Everyone joined in, filling the room with a cacophonous roar. Once more, I felt the rumble below my feet before rows of tables and chairs burst from the floor. After the dust had settled, we all broke away from the circle and found somewhere to sit. I sat by Frank and Dolores. They both appeared to be on the verge of mania, and Frank started openly weeping once our drinks arrived. They both inhaled their drinks like practiced alcoholics. A frothy cup is placed in front of me. I felt my stomach tighten as I remembered the vile special ingredients that were within. I can't drink this," I said, pushing it away. "You must," Dolores said, shoving the drink back towards me. "You'll feel much better. Trust us." I brought the cup to my face and hesitated. Memories of human carrion flooded into my mind. "Come on, man. Don't let her see you hesitate. Drink up!" I glanced over and saw the blue-eyed woman glaring at me. I took a huge swig. And it was amazing. Without a doubt, that cup of frothy orange juice was the greatest, most rewarding drink I have ever tasted. I didn't realize that mind-blowing flavors that intense existed. At once, I felt better, reinvigorated, and my previous health issues fell away from me like old scabs. My 2 tablemates grimaced at me with knowing smiles. I drained the cup until all that remained were clumps of foam and the vaguest hint of medical waste. I slammed the cup on the table, burped, and anxiously waited my second helping. Soon I've consumed a half a dozen cups. I was stuffed and more satiated than at any point in my life. I glanced around at the other tables and saw people cradling their overstuffed bellies. I knew every one of us had just consumed bits and pieces of another human, but I felt great. A flood of guilt prodded me at the edges of my consciousness, but for now, I was content. I walked home on a tide of euphoria and went to sleep smiling. For the next few weeks, the cycle continued. Every day a slinky arrived in the mail. I'd follow the mobile toy to some paralyzed person in bed, and I'd follow the 7 steps. Day by day, I could feel my body slowly deteriorate. Soon, it felt like my whole body was nothing more than a hand in an ill-fitting glove. The energy I felt after consuming that orange drink had long receded, and I felt myself craving its narcotic effect. Then, I was invited to another staff meeting. I was overjoyed. Finally, I could shed these ill effects. Later that day, I arrived at the abandoned Orange Julius. I looked for Frank and Dolores, but they were nowhere to be found. Once again, we all formed a circle. Following the now familiar pattern, the lights went out and the wind picked up. After the 3 lights flashed, a panicked and familiar-looking woman thrashed about the circle, yelling, "What the hell? Who are you people?" The woman with the blue eyes led her away, and soon we were all sitting at our tables waiting anxiously for our drinks. I was so desperate to take my first sip, I was shaking in expectation. A frothy cup was placed in front of me. I was overjoyed, but I hesitated. Something felt wrong. I peered inside the cup and felt my heart sink to my knees. Mixed with the orange juice was an overlong index finger and a severed nose, complete with a ring. The world started spinning. So that's why Frank and Dolores were absent. They'd been turned into ingredients, condiments for this devilish cocktail. I looked to my left and right and saw everyone draining their cups with frenetic enthusiasm. This is not right at all, I thought to myself. I wondered, is this my fate? Are we all destined to be torn into pieces and made into a narcotic smoothie? I felt the drink pulling at me. I knew if I took one small sip, all my troubles would dissipate. I'd be re-energized and free of this relentless sluggishness. I had no choice. I chugged that orange abomination like it was an ambrosia from the gods. I banged on my table demanding more. I felt gross and wonderful in equal measure. At that moment, somewhere deep in my subconscious, I knew that this couldn't last. I had to put an end to this madness.
Welcome back, my darling deviants. Well, tell me, did you enjoy that twisted tale? Of course you did. I knew you had that air about you, that hunger for the horrific and the macabre. So, did we spook you? If not, then file a complaint with our complaint department detailing all accounts of non-spookiness you found in this video, and we'll get back to you in 2 to 3 millennia. Give or take a business eon or 2. However, if you've enjoyed what you've just heard this evening, then make sure you leave a like on this video and annihilate that subscribe button. Such a small act of obedience is exactly what we need to put the food on the table around here. There's only so many days we can have refried kidney and toe jam hash before I'm absolutely sick of it. Spoiler alert, that ship sailed long ago. Now, I must bid you adieu. I've many things to take care of, and this outro is eating into my day off. Run along now. Have no fear, we'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday to bring you another terrible tale. Go forth, my ghastly gang, and stay spooky.